Yes, now I remember.
Yeah.
When we were talking before, I was like, "Wow, you do a lot for somebody
I
who's
used
kind
to.
of shy."
I
You
am.
know,
I am
he's
shy.
always like the leader of some group. He's like,
None of those
"What?
groups that I choose, I just kind of got
What is the
nominated,
next
but
group are you going to lead?"
that's what my next project is.
Okay.
No, but that's the thing. I do want to get back to not that I
I'm
wasn't
sorry, I
making good, but
totally
yes, like
interrupt you.
no. So yeah, so I've always been I'm passionate about certain things,
Yes.
and I end up in charge of them because I don't want to see them, fall apart.
Yeah.
But I did start what we called living learning community. So you had to have, certain grades. It's a better living environment. You had to do community service. You had to do school-wide service. You had to do certain projects and whatnot. And one of the things we did is we formed panels, and we went to classrooms like the teacher that I was talking about, and we kind of did a presentation and
Okay.
then
Yeah.
left space for the classmates of that group or whatever to ask us questions
Yeah.
and respond.
Yeah.
And it was a time where, it was becoming a little bit more acceptable, but still a lot of hate in the area. So, I don't know if we changed a whole lot, but if a few minds were a little more accepting, then awesome. So
I took part in something like that in Fairbanks, and it was just like a teacher in service day, and they had like the local trans group come in to give a presentation, and I volunteered for part of it. And I noticed though it was completely voluntary, which is fine, but unfortunately when it's completely voluntary, it's all the people who are already on board who go. So
Yep.
nobody who actually needed to hear that information showed up, I'm sure.
So that's what when we did it first. Before we started our own panels, we went to like the Translating Identity conference. We went to the True Colors conference. We went to one and kind of saw how they were done
Yeah.
other places.
Yeah.
And kind of took back resources, made our own resources
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we also had information to answer other than just I don't know, I haven't experienced that yet. So but what we did is first we went to like the gender study classes, and then we moved to going, and it wasn't, although we did events where people could choose to come to, we went into actual classes like
Yeah.
during their class time, and this was that lesson for the day, was to do our panel.
Okay.
So
And I'm going to assume that you had approval from the school board or
Right.
principal and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
so
One controversy that happened in Fairbanks is a teacher took it upon themselves to make that part of the curriculum, and boy, there was a huge community blow up about that.
sure.
Yeah.
You can't, it's different. I mean, we did college level, and then that we went into college level classes, and then high school teachers could do events to bring us in, but we didn't like go through like whole schools, and that was also before 2010, and things have changed even more so. But because even the students that what I've seen here wouldn't have been the same back then. But
I mean, they're more educated now? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
so
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we've kind of reached this moment where there's a lot more information out there. Kids, are able to access more information, and, they're talking to each other about issues. But then also we have this extreme social oppression that's going on, like state oppression. It's really a weird moment.
some people
we're
are
in.
also acting as if like by allowing a child to transition, they're causing them harm, or they're going through a stage or whatever. And in any of those situations
Yeah.
where people use hate in that way, I'm like, because more people are accepting in a way that is doing less harm on children, that is seen as abuse.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
so it's, but
Less harm is seen as abuse.
right.
Yeah.
So,
It's those same people who are like, yeah, I got spanked when I was a kid and it didn't do me any harm. But actually, it did do
Yep.
you some harm because you accept violence in your life.
right. And the whole generational trauma and breaking it and
Yeah,
whatnot.
right.
And, everything's all about finding balance, but yeah, like, even the change that I've seen here in 10, 20 years, 5 years, is awesome, and it's still hard to see that there's things that still need to improve here, and then
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that other places aren't even half of what we have. So
Right, right. Yeah, it's just a constant struggle,
Yep.
really.
I did experience, I think I shared this last time, we expect around here where it's very accepting for medical wise, it's really important to also share with each other when, like, this is, like I said, Planned Parenthood's a place to go, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a transgender support group, and
trans people are always the best resources for that stuff, you know.
Yep. And I've had someone say, oh, well, this is New England. Oh, you know, Mass is accepting, so anywhere you go will be fine.
Not
Which,
true.
of course, is not true.
No. I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I actually got asked to leave a clinic. Yeah. The lady told me that it would be illegal to treat me. I didn't even go in for trans care. I went in for like a test that was unrelated. And I told her I was trans just because that's part of my medical history. And she said, okay, well, I can't treat you. It would be illegal. And I said, well, I didn't come in for that, for one thing. And then she told me, okay, well, I'm going to do it, but I don't ever want to see you back here. Yeah. Awesome.
And this is why trans people tend to get less care or seek less medical care.
That's right.
than other groups.
That's right.
Yeah, so even like in this area, same thing. In Massachusetts in May, I went in, I have neuropathy in my feet, and the neurologist was asking very personal trans questions that had absolutely nothing to do with why I was there, with my medical care that I needed, or anything whatsoever. And the reports that went back to my doctor, the pronouns were constantly wrong and back and forth, and not even accurate information. And my doctor was like, what the heck? The nurse's notes didn't line up with the doc. And this is, 2022 in Massachusetts. So
Yep. Yeah, I've also experienced, and I've also heard this from other trans people, that sometimes there can be inappropriate exposure of somebody's body when it has nothing to do with the actual healthcare, inappropriate touching, inappropriate questions about sexuality that have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the actual visit. But it's so common. This is something I hear all the time from trans people, and I've experienced myself. Yeah, so it's very hard to find healthcare for trans people that's competent, but it's also sometimes hard to get people to go to healthcare appointments because we're also traumatized by it, because it often is terrible, even in cool places. Even at Harvard, there was only one competent doctor there, and all the queer and trans people were funneled to him, so nobody could get an appointment.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I am finding though too, well, I'm a doctor that is willing to say, I just don't know much. I don't have I don't have much experience working with transgender people, but I'm willing to figure out what I have to do and get back to you.
Yeah.
Sorry. They seem to think like they're going to offend you for that, and I'm like, I would love to hear that over than somebody that comes in and just
I don't mind ignorance at all, because that actually means that somebody is then willing to learn, because they're accepting that they don't know much, and that's actually very humble for a doctor to say.
And they're not turning you away for it. They're just saying like, bear with me, or like, understand that,
Yeah, and I'm going to say doctors find that all the time, right? Because medicine is a very complex field. So doctors are constantly educating themselves, going to colleagues who know more, going to conferences, reading more papers on something, reading the protocols for whatever new medication. So it's not like they can't educate themselves about trans people. It's specialized care, but it's not that specialized, really. I mean, there's
certain fields too are different, but
I mean, endocrinology or whatever. But if you're just a general practitioner, you can learn what to do. Yeah. Great. So, what is your plans for trying to start this shelter? Because that's quite a big project. I mean, that's really big. You need a lot of funding, and
I'm taking some time right now to focus on some health things, but I use art as a way to not only express myself, but also reach other people.
What's your medium?
I do a little bit of whatever I can.
Okay.
I find that I can pick up a lot things easily. Right now, I draw, paint. I am big into photography right now. I've written a few small little books that I might self-publish. I'm not really sure yet. But
kids' books.
Well, yeah. But so I'm kind of just dabbling with my creative process right now, and using it as a way to kind of get my name out there a little bit more while I figure out which direction I want to go, and also kind of give myself time to enjoy just the art process while I heal and figure things out.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm glad you're able to do that.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then while I'm doing this, I am working on kind of pulling some strings together and gathering resources and deciding my next move.
So are you going to kind of make this your project, or are you kind of gathering a team to do it? Because that's a different way to do it.
So my art stuff is more of a me project.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it won't go in different directions. I'm not a want to be in charge of a whole bunch of things type of person.
Okay.
I have a lot of different interests and different things I'm good at. I'm also good at finding people that to kind of bridge things together or whatnot. I don't know. I think I'm in the stage of just trying to see what's out there, what's needed, trying to figure out what I'm doing. But
yeah, that takes a lot of research, especially funding resources, and then looking at different models around the country, because there are some of these around the country. I remember when I lived in Portland, Oregon for a little while, there was a youth shelter that focused on LGBT youth, and that was great.
Yeah, I have connections of connections, and so I've gotten some names that I just have to make arrangements with to, see different facilities or talk to different people or whatnot. To kind of, it takes time to
and there's some pitfalls to it, so
Right.
you can learn from their mistakes or what they've had to what challenges there are. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not unrealistic. It's not something that's going to happen like overnight. So I'm looking more for just building advocacy in the area for now, and using my artwork to help.
Yeah, especially, I mean, for gay and bisexual and lesbian people, it can be a challenge definitely to be in shelters, but especially for trans people, right? Because shelters are often one gender, and social workers don't know where to put trans people.
Right.
And it can be dangerous because it can out people. There can be sexual violence,
Plus, so like if areas around here, or at least, so if it's a woman in child shelter, they are progressive enough, like, trans women are included, but by being a trans man, you're not in that category.
Yeah.
But by putting a trans man in a male-only shelter is not always a safe choice. So
no, it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because you're sleeping right next to somebody, you're getting naked, you're often showering, that sort of thing. Yep.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah. Some of the small spots to start, like our libraries here do different functions. This church does a lot. They have a support group at the community center here. Every Friday nights is for LGBT folks and whatnot.
Great.
Yep. And
I really love active churches. I love it. I love it.
So, and I was telling you about Star Island and going there with this
group. Yeah, tell me about that.
So,
what is Star Island, by the way?
Star Island is one of the Isles of Shoals. It is a 45-minute boat ride off of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So half of the islands are owned by Maine and half are by New Hampshire.
Just a little bit of geography here. New Hampshire doesn't have very much of a Atlantic coastline. It's very small. Portsmouth is pretty much it. But there's these islands that are off of it.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, there's the Isles of Shoals are between New Hampshire and Maine.
Yeah.
And Star Island is owned by New Hampshire. And so you can do day trips out there, half days and whatnot. You can also stay over. Throughout the summer, they have, like, each week we'll have different conferences there for different things. Like, they'll have creative ones or whatnot. I always go over Labor Day weekend. It's called Star Gathering. And that's when my pastors are, like, the residential pastors.
Who owns this island? Is it a state property? Or is it private?
I should know the answer to that question.
It's okay if you don't.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. I'm just wondering about the scheduling, because it seems like it's all year. It's
well, no. I mean, it has like a residence, but you can't live out there in the winter. But
is it just too stormy out
there?
I
want to say it is all the UCC that owns it. And that my first time going out there, I thought it was so great because there's pride flags everywhere. Now it's an all-inclusive flag, but that was the first place that I went to stay. It's very like simple, low key, because they have to provide for their own stuff. So, like everything can be composted, like the cups, the straws, everything.
Yeah.
You don't want trash because you're an island.
Right.
So
it's like going to camp, kind of.
pretty much, except gorgeous sunsets and kayaking and stuff, you know, on the ocean. But
do you ever see whales and that sort of thing?
sometimes on the boat right out, we went to Duck Island, which is right off the way, and we saw seals.
Nice.
So that was cool. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's so much to do out there that you could never see in a day. And this was my 5th or 6th Labor Day weekend out there, and still spent a day out on the cliffs, a day out. Like, there's so much to do. But it's cool because it was one of the first places that I went to stay that all the bathrooms are all gendered.
Oh,
so they all have signs. This is an all gender bathroom. Like, there is no, it's just, that's how the island is.
Says all gender. Great.
Yep. This is an all gender bathroom.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, if you have an issue with this, there'll be like one spot where, like, go in the corner type thing. But it's just, no, it's a very inclusive island.
Bigots in the corner.
Yes. Typically, if you're a bigot, you wouldn't, unless you're doing like a day trip out there and you didn't know much about the island, you wouldn't go out there. They have, it's
I'm totally kidding. Some people are just, shyer. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But they have like resident artists and stuff. So like I'm walking down and, now as someone who passes, like, these girls are talking about writing a book and trying to figure out how this non-binary person is going to fit in. And I just wanted to pipe in, and I'm like, that's just how it is all over the island, though. So
yeah,
it's very, very cool.
Do you find that you miss being sort of more in between, like more genderqueer or more non-binary?
So sometimes,
yeah,
but I feel that unfortunately, what the difference in that is safety. So yeah, I love being able to be seen and take my identity and claim it and say, like, I'm a part of this group. And so I miss being seen by people that, like, I can tell that they're on this in the family, but they don't know that I'm a part of the family. So, your terminology.
Yes.
But at the same time, I am so much more relaxed and comfortable and confident, and that's because I feel safe in this area. And so I can choose to then come out and in the proper setting and whatnot. And I feel like that's taken the easy way out. And so I'm kind of there.
The easy way out?
Easy way out.
Do you feel some guilt?
I do actually. I think that if, like, they, them was more acceptable, I'd probably be just transmasculine and whatnot. I'd like to be more of a, I don't ever want to be like an icon type thing. I'm not that type of person.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, like,
by
I don't
icon.
want to be like a symbol head or whatever. Like, I like to be progressive and move people along in the direction, but not be like the face that everyone knows type of thing. So to stay in the background, but
if you lead stuff, though, that doesn't.
No, I'm okay leading stuff. No, I'm okay leading stuff. That's what I meant. I meant, like, I don't want to be just like, if I say, if I come out to an organization or do an event and I'm presenting myself as a trans guy and I'm doing this event, like, I'm putting that on and I'm
like the representative.
Representing, yeah, right. So I don't want to, I don't know how to say this in for so many years in the genderqueer setting, I was having constant, things thrown at me in bathrooms, so many things that I'm not ready to be in that full space again yet. When I do, I want to take it on, like, when I'm have more resources, a support, to be more of like a public head type thing.
So you're internally, you still feel more genderqueer or non-binary.
I'm definitely trans. I'm definitely
more male, masculine.
So I'd say transmasculine. I don't think genderqueer fits and stuff anymore, but I just don't like that it's this or that. I feel that, like,
now, how do you define transmasculine then? Because people use these terms in different ways.
So for me, I am more feminine as a man than I ever was as a female.
Okay.
So when I was female, it was so wrong to me and foreign to me that I overcompensated and I pushed this masculinity, like the toxic masculinity, just because I was going to be tough and I was going to deal with whatever and not show emotion, and like it damaged me to try to take on that level of masculinity. So to me, it's saying that it's not.
Is it because you wanted to be recognized?
I think so.
Yeah.
Also, just to separate from how wrong it felt the way I was. Now, for me, transitioning was right, okay? But I've also gotten to understand that being a man does not mean you're pushing this, like, what does being a man mean? Yeah. I don't want to be this man who's going to tell you what it's like to be a man.
In some ways, I feel like lesbian / dyke / whatever culture has sort of put that idea out there of what a man is, and it's often a negative thing, right? So in some ways, I feel like that did a little bit of damage to me when I was younger. Yeah. You know, because I didn't realize that I could be a different kind of man, you know?
Yeah, so that's it. So, like, through my transitioning, it's not me saying, like, that I necessarily want to be genderqueer. Again, it's that realizing that I'm a feminine man, and that's okay. Yeah. But so my part of taking that forward to advocacy is I want other people to know that's okay. Yeah. Not just for my comfort level. Not to say, like, you know, don't call me a girly man or whatever. Like, I don't even mean that. I mean, I want other people to know that if they're feeling in that category, because I've actually had people contact me and they're like, I don't know what to do. I want to do this, but I'm not. And we just have conversations like that. And they're like, that's allowed. And,
well, you seem like a very gentle man, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah. So it's all that, like, that it's not just the toxic masculinity or the weak feminine. Like, if you want to, if you're feminine, be feminine. Like, but you know, that's what I meant when, like, there's not just the binary, like, there's so much more in between. Yeah. So I think, like, where I'm at, and I know I'm not going to change the world overnight, but at least in this area, is raising the awareness that there is no two sides. Like, that one side has a million shades in between. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, we can't, you know, as individuals change the world, but we can influence other people, you know, and that always ripples out, you know.
Yep. And for me, in figuring out myself that like that's where I fit in, then when people do come and, like, share with me whatever, I don't then tell them this is it for me. I allow them to share their story or whatnot, and I just ask them questions to see if they're in the same boat. And then I'll say, you know, well, for me, this is how I felt. And I've had quite a few people be like, yeah, like, you know, and they'll work out how they feel about it. But
this is a little bit more controversial, but did you feel differently on testosterone, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And how did that feel? What was that change?
There are some changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different changes.
So, I don't know which change. I don't know. It was kind of like a lot happened once, kind of the anxiety. Like, when I started feeling that I could be my authentic self, I didn't know what that meant when I thought I was feeling it. Sure. So when I started trying to figure out what was my authentic self, a lot more things came up that, like, gave me the chance to look at. So, you know, going on testosterone, everyone is always like, oh, you're more hostile or whatever. But I became more, a little bit more laid back and a little bit more less irritable and whatnot. It did also change other things about myself that, you know, some people happen that people might not. Like, before testosterone, I was primarily into women, whereas that has swung back the other way.
So you identify as gay or queer? Or...
Yep. Yep. And again, I want to raise vocabulary, because I do I do say either queer, or I say I'm bi or gay, but I also don't want labels with it. So, like, you know, but when you use the words that mean, like, just love a person that comes along, that you love a person or whatever, people don't always understand that. Or, of course, there's different things you're attracted to, different people you're attracted to, but there's so much.
Some people can get confused by that, and then
that's the thing.
Then get a crush on you, and then you have to let them down.
And, like, right, just because you're attracted to women doesn't mean you want all women. Like, it's people get stuck in betweens. And I had someone contact me, and they're like, but you're trans, but you identify as bisexual. Like, how does that work? And I'm like, well, your gender and sexuality are two different things.
Yeah.
And they go, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They really are, because it's like your own internal identity, and then sexuality is how you deal with other people, you know?
yeah, so a lot changes.
Yeah, so, well, that's not actually true. There's also a sexuality that you can have within yourself, right? And that's kind of a hot topic a little bit, because there's this concept of autogynephilia or something like that that gets put on trans women as if they can't have their own, like, sort of sensuality in their bodies and that sort of thing. And that is a form of sexuality. And we don't actually recognize that very much, I feel like, in this culture. That we can, you know, not just, I don't mean just like masturbation and that's something, you know, but just like really just loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves and, you know, caressing, you know, taking nice baths, whatever, eating good food, you know. There's a whole gamut of things.
And even, I mean, slightly different than that, but even like, you know, as I was saying before, like the feminine men, like I want to like normalize a culture where it's okay for a man to take a bath and there'll be no other questions asked. It's just a man's taking a bath. Yeah. It means nothing. Yeah. Like there is no, it means absolutely nothing to any of the other categories. That's just that man wants to go take a bath. Yeah. Like, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all these topics are so difficult, and we now are dealing with like an aging culture, for instance, and like older people or elderly. I don't know. Elderly seems like a judgmental term, but older people and their sexuality, for instance, like that's kind of a topic now, because people are living longer and they're living healthier lives as they get older.
Or, you know, if they lose a partner or divorce and changing, like, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, dating.
Yeah,
you know?
dating. Totally. But, speaking of that, I found it really hard to date as a trans person. What do you think about that?
I have not dated as a trans person, so...
well, you were married at some point.
Well, I was married.
Yeah.
Yep.
Were you, like, gay married, in quotes? Or...
So...
Yeah.
We were different because my lovely ex-wife, who I get along with now.
Great.
But she was the ultimate, like, lesbian, wants to be, like, I'm a lesbian and this is that. But she was only attracted to really butch people. Okay. What happens to really butch people? So...
Sometimes.
I'm saying that because, not always. When we split up, the person she left me for is now trans. But,
okay.
But that was one of the things we argued a lot about. Not only, but
was that something that drove you apart?
Not the only thing, but that was a big wedge. Yeah. But what was interesting though is she wanted to put up the sign that she was ultimate lesbian, whatever. But we traveled like Europe and stuff, and we did it as a straight couple, and we passed as a straight couple, and we got married. We did it as a straight couple. We didn't have a lesbian wedding or whatnot. So right. So. It was interesting.
So you didn't get gay married?
No.
That's awesome.
No. But, like, all my friends, it was their first gay wedding. So, to them, But, no. But, yeah.
Nothing wrong with gay marriage. But I just love saying that. Did you get gay married? Or no. Because it's kind of a thing, getting gay married.
But one thing that she made me think of, though, people that aren't in the LGBT community kind of put us all together in one community, which we get. Okay. But trans people are not always included with the gay and lesbians.
And also
and bisexual people aren't always included in the
all
gay
these
and
communities are all very different. And they're all very different geographically and ethnically and all those things. So we're not just talking about a community. We're talking about a myriad of communities here.
Right. Because even as a trans man, if I'm a trans man dating a woman, then I'm a straight... if I'm passing, then to everyone else, what's okay. Sure. But as a trans man dating a man, well, then you've got a minority and a minority, because you're not just a gay man, but you're a trans man dating a gay man, gay men that hopefully have a little leeway. So it gets so complicated. Yeah. But, yeah.
So you haven't been dating? Oh.
I have not.
I'm sad about that.
Yeah.
Is it just, a time thing because you're kind of a busy teacher, or you have been?
Yeah, primarily.
Yeah. Well, now you have some time.
Thanks. So,
See, shy person right here.
yes. No. It's also hard to like meet people,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'm poking fun of you.
Yeah, how often have you dated?
Not that much.
See?
No, actually, when I was a lesbian or dyke, I actually called myself a dyke. I dated way more.
Me too.
In fact, it was kind of the thing where,
Well, it's okay to be a lesbian that sleeps around, but a trans guy has to be careful.
yeah, I don't know about that. For
The
me,
lesbian sleeping around part or the careful part?
well, I've always been pretty careful, but you know, I was a teenager when AIDS was at its height. But more like when I went into a space where everybody was kind of the same gender and looking for the same thing, you know, when I was a dyke, it was so easy. And I was a certain commodity, let's say.
Okay.
I was butch and I was dominant, you know, and I was well liked. But then as a trans man, kind of like what you were talking about as being, you know, all of a sudden you're like you look like a straight man, you know, similar to me. Like if I were to go into a space where there's a whole bunch of women, like they would wonder if I was a straight man in the bar or maybe even a gay man in the bar. And that I wouldn't have any interest or any connection with them. And somebody who's coming out of the queer community, I'd never dated as a straight person. I don't know what that's about. I don't even think straight people know what that's really about. I mean, how do they date? I have no idea.
And to me, like, I feel like
queer stuff is a little bit easier.
I think so. And for me, like, I don't know, to go into a completely straight relationship, I don't know. I would have to figure out how that would work. But I mean, every relationship was different. But and what I meant before about the women, I wish, please. I was with my wife for 11 years out of high school. So when I was at the time of my life where, you know, and that you were saying, like, when you go into a place, it's all like, and there's not even, we used to have, in Manchester here, we had the 313, which was a gay club that was awesome. We'd all go to, and you dance and have fun, whatever. And if you like the person, you just come back next week. And so it's a lot easier than...
Is it like a LGBT club or a gay club?
It was an LGBT club.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's a new thing for me. I don't know about these things.
It's closed down.
At a certain point, I stopped really going to bars, and that's when that change happened, when it went from like gay bars or lesbian bars to LGBT bars.
Yeah.
So it's not there anymore.
No. And it was actually like where we all went around here to like you know, every night was a different theme night or whatever.
Why did it close?
I think it was a owning issue, but I'm not, or like the building issue or something. It was always full, so, and it was great because there were different rooms for different things. So if like whatever, if you weren't a dancer, don't go in the room that people dancing in or whatever. But a lot of things also changed. I don't remember exactly when it was, but when bars and stuff switched so that they could no longer smoke indoors.
Yeah, I heard that New Hampshire was a holdout with that too. It was one of the last ones where you could do that.
I don't know because I'm from New Hampshire, so I don't know what other places did it.
I know
in some places down south you still can, but
well, restaurants too. I think maybe I'm getting that mixed up. I think the restaurants here were the last ones.
So in 2004, when I was old enough to go to bars, you could smoke in them still. 2007 through 10, when I was going to them, you couldn't. Okay. So somewhere between there.
Sure. Okay. California made that change, and I was there when that happened, but then all of a sudden everybody was smoking weed in the bars, and that was even more annoying. Actually, for me it was just like, oh, I can't even go to bars anymore. So
yeah. So.
But it was medication, so they could do that.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah.
So as a gay trans man, though, it sounds like you would have some options. Maybe, you know, going to gay bars and that sort of thing. I mean, I'm kind of getting personal here, but have you thought about doing that?
So I have, and then, so like I was saying, how like some of the LG community don't always accept the trans part.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'll specifically say that like I'm looking for a bisexual person, looking for a bisexual person. I'll put on there that I'm a trans man. Because I've had quite a few even who say that they're bisexual that then say, oh, well, I don't do girls. I'm not a girl. And that's like the response that, you know, so it gets complicated.
Why would they say they're bisexual then? Who knows? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this mostly you're doing this online? And,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's mostly how things are done now, I think. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
still kind of old school where I don't really do the online thing, but then I end up just not doing anything.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at because I feel like the online thing is so fake and I'm awkward typically anyways. So like if I'm not,
Some people like awkward though.
Yeah.
Some people like awkward.
some people don't always. Some jokes go over my head, but
Some people don't mind that.
yeah, I can either be like overly sarcastic or like then people are like, I don't understand what you're saying, and I'm like, that was a joke, but okay. So, or like,
Do you do like intellectual jokes or something?
no, I'm not that smart.
Okay.
No. But like, I use sarcasm a lot though.
Okay. But you're so like deadpan about it that people can't see it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So,
I'm sometimes a big flirt, but I always flirt with people who are loners and they don't want to date anybody. But I always love those people.
I always come off.
Looking at you. I'm looking at you.
I always come off as either like if someone thinks I'm flirting with them, then I have no idea I'm flirting. If I'm flirting, then you think I'm awkward as hell, and you're going that way.
Okay.
I do not know how to flirt.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah. Well, when I'm pretty good at flirting when I'm really on, but sometimes I don't notice when people are flirting with me. Like,
Same.
I mean, they really have to bonk me over the head. There was a woman who we were in a volunteer situation, and actually she was kind of hitting on me. But I only noticed because she had gotten so close to me. I mean, she was basically like kind of on me. And then I was once in a sauna, and this older woman, she was basically kind of touching herself. I mean, I don't usually go here, but, and she was talking about how she was, you know, feeling amorous. And I really didn't realize that she was hitting on me, even though we were alone together in a sauna.
so I recently
Just
had
so dense.
Yeah, I recently had a similar situation when I was out with some friends for my birthday, and there was this person who I did find attractive, and
Yeah. Oh, this woman was attractive too. She was French, and she was just like, you know, she just oozed sexuality, but I was just so clueless. Anyway.
yeah, that's me. Like this person, I just thought they were being friendly, and afterwards, I said to my friend, they were really cute, and they're like, then why'd you keep shutting them down? And I was like, what? And my friend gave me like point after point. I'm like, why didn't you kick me? I'm like,
Yeah, you maybe need to go with a friend who's gonna kick you every once in a
Yeah.
while and be like, hey, you know, yeah. Have a wingman, as they say, you know.
yeah. Well, then I'm like, can we go back? And they were like, not the way you acted.
Oh no.
No. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you sometimes only get that one chance there. Yeah, especially with gay men, like they kind of, you know, they flirt and then they move on. You know, if they don't get the reaction or whatever. In at least a bar situation, you know, in a sort of superficial sort of situation. Yeah. Anyway, what else should we talk about? What would you like to see here in New Hampshire? Maybe activism that you are not focused on, but that other people can do that would make New Hampshire a better place for the LGBT community, or specifically just trans people. Is anything going on that's not so good here that needs to be remedied? You know.
Some of the things are being worked on and whatnot. I feel like a lot more of the schools need to be doing more progressive social emotional learning type things.
Okay.
Just in general, but it makes it easier for, LGBT folks.
Yeah.
More things. I mean, people do know of PFLAG, so people like that aren't. It's easy to tell parents that don't know much to check them out, but I wish there was more stuff for parents to intermingle with themselves and create avenues for themselves to go in. And like, if you and your friends have something in common and you go and your kids get brought up together or whatnot, and you every couple of years you all get together type of thing, I would like to see more things like that around, where, say, all the parents get to know each other because all of their kids are trans or whatnot. So, like, where I was last weekend, there was a bunch of...
So that extended family idea that you were talking about.
So, like, I've been places where I'm talking to people and they're like, oh, well, we're all here because of our autistic sons or whatnot. So they get together a couple times a year to just have that community.
Yes.
I would love to see things like that, where it's, just a bunch of queer kids in the area, like, let's go camping every second week. Or whatever.
That can be facilitated by a group like PFLAG, which most of the people who start those chapters, I believe, are actually straight people. They aren't even queer people, right? They're like the parents of.
Yeah, that's what it stands for.
Even some of them are very conservative. Up in Alaska, there are very conservative parents who started PFLAG chapters. Yeah, amazingly enough. But then also it can just be a homegrown effort. I mean, you don't really need an organization to tell you how to make friends with other people. So.
And I feel like we live in an age where you meet people online, and so you kind of need to have some of those spaces that, I don't know, a few events or spaces or something that starts it.
And also in person.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do everything online.
Right.
You really can't. I mean, some of you out there that were alive and, doing stuff before the internet, that life was a lot different and social interaction was a lot different. And,
so, okay, I don't like online dating and online stuff like that. So then I go someplace and say, okay, well, I'm going to go meet someone. And I go there and everyone's on their phone or with their own friends. It's no longer, hey, you're alone over there, come on in. It's my phone, my place. Or...
they will do that too. There will be like kiosks where people are like, oh, I saw you over by the bathroom, and oh, well, let's geolocate each other, and oh, there we're meeting now. It's just so strange. Yeah. Instead of just, oh, you're a handsome person, I'm going to come up and talk to you.
That happens?
Yeah. I used to do that. Actually, I was very successful in dating and doing that, And I think that projects confidence. I think people have lost a modicum, some confidence these days because we're out of practice. We're out of practice with doing that. I worry about that with the kids too. I mean, like with COVID, like we were saying earlier, some of those social cues and the social interactions.
Definitely.
I worry about them. In terms of COVID, but then also of this internet age
too. It goes both ways. Like, they're missing out on how to be around people, like how to interact socially, but also, like, there's also more room for poor choices or decisions or situations because, oh, I know them, I've been talking to them for years. Okay.
But also when you're in real-time interactions with people, you're going to make mistakes, right? Online, those mistakes look different than they do in person. And I feel like if you're in person, sometimes you can be more humane with each other.
But you also need to learn to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're only online or only like, oh, like I'm dating so-and-so, but we just text all the time. Like, they're not seeing the real you. No. You're only seeing what you choose to show them. The highlights. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I'm having a great day, and here's my beautiful plate that I made for dinner, and, whatever. So. Yeah, I worry about that. And I feel so old saying that. I really do. I feel old, but I feel like people who are older have some insight into how things were different. Like, I mean, I'm just going to say, like, even in the 90s, it was so different. And that wasn't that long ago. That really wasn't that long ago. But I would go into cafes. Nobody would be on their computers. I mean, they weren't even coming out with that sort of thing.
Right.
There weren't any of those phones. And so people would be reading books, reading the newspaper, reading the weekly newspaper with all the gossip in it and, all the band reviews and what show we're going to go to. And you would check out what book was in somebody's back pocket. And for a while, it was always those magical realism books. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, I think it was his name. Anyway, always his books, or Toni Morrison or something like that. And those are things, when you see them, you can actually strike up, you can see where you are at with that person socially. You can strike up a conversation.
It gave you something to talk about, not just, oh, you're playing a game.
Yeah, and
Yep.
And you can check people out. You can drink your coffee, and you can listen in on other people's conversations in a different way.
I used to, before I got caught up with the whole world of teaching, I used to read all the time, and I of course read sci-fi because that's me. But there were so many times that I'd also be missing out on what's right by me because I'm stuck with my head in a book. But but I had plenty of conversations got pulled up about like the book or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I got to see the transition.
I've connected with a lot of people, cool people, over loving certain writers like Octavia E Butler, for instance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Met them.
Yeah. Oh
Before
my goodness. Yeah. I had a chance to meet her, and I was feeling depressed that day, and I didn't go out. And then not too long after, she died. She died very tragically, like a household accident.
Yeah. We brought her before I went to Keene. I was studying at Western Connecticut State University, and we brought her there to do a panel or.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly what, but did something.
Yeah. If you're into sci-fi, or if you're just really into, I don't know, cool writing and just,
Look.
Yeah. Yep. Check her out. Octavia E Butler. Yep. Anyway.
But, so for many years, I think like 10 to like 13 years, I was an educational consult for Usborne Books. And so we would do a lot of fundraising with them. I was always about promoting like educational books or books that could be fictional stories but have like a purpose of teaching kids, or using books to teach kids that they enjoy rather than forcing books down that just because it taught something that they had no interest in.
A lot of charter schools are doing that.
Yeah,
which is great.
So I was an educational consultant for Usborne Books, and some of it is going to different fairs and doing school fairs, doing community fairs, going into houses and doing stuff. I wasn't really into that as much, so I did.
You're always doing this stuff around education.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
It's like it's a theme here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tend to find myself in these things. Yeah. But so I took part in, we raised money we did some type of union between Usborne Books and the 99 Club, the 99 restaurant, and the Boys and Girls Club. And so we would go and sell books at the 99 restaurant, and we would donate books and money to the Boys and Girls Club. And we could also do the same thing by doing fundraisers at schools. You would then donate books to the schools. So I'd gotten to that aspect of things rather than the going to people's homes part. But throughout the time, I got to see the changes of parents coming in. And I understand you don't want to always buy kids for your book, or buy your kids things all the time. I get that. But we would also allow their kids to look at the books while they were waiting. Yeah. And then put them back and go eat or whatever. Well, it eventually got to a point where parents would come in, and these aren't like regulars or whatever. Some type of shift happened where they'd come in and you'd look around the waiting room, and parents would tell their kids, go on your phone. And you see the parents on their phone, each kid on their phone or tablet or whatever, headphones.
They would tell the kids to get on their phone?
Yep.
Oh,
instead of looking at the books or whatnot. But it wouldn't just stop in the waiting room.
Well, that's
like
sad.
I would kind of glance over at the table, and they're all on their devices. So it's you could always see like the kids that would be looking at like the books or whatnot, and it wasn't always my main point to get them to purchase the book. I'm not a good business person. I never was, never will be. My point is more sharing the love of reading and learning and whatnot.
Maybe the parents felt a little pressure or something.
We're never, the people that I was selling with, we would never like force things. It was just, we're there. You can come up and see it. If a kid's playing with it and the parents are like, don't touch that 'cause we're not going to buy it. You don't have to. You can look at it. It's, no worries. As long as you don't damage it. And if you know your child is a book destroyer, then totally, please step in. Usually those aren't the parents that would step in though. But so there was a shift happen eventually that we noticed. The regulars would bring in their books and be like, oh, I read this one, and like have a conversation with you about it and whatnot, or just discuss it, whatnot. But yeah, people would come in and the parents would say like,
Oh, so they get to know you and
Yeah.
and
Yep.
oh, look what I did.
Yep.
And, yeah, cool.
yeah. But then other people, they'd come in and the parents would be like, take your phone. And I would kind of like watch a little bit, like glance over and like, oh, okay, it's just because they don't want them to read the books, which whatever. But no, then I'd look at like the table and they're all on their devices. And
Have you ever done anything with the library systems? Like extending that out a little more?
Nothing recently.
No?
I've tutored at libraries. I've done some different programs. My mom was a town librarian for her town in Maine. She was like the children's librarian. So I'm in a new space because teaching has always been so much of my focus that I didn't get to do. I spent too much time away from my other interests. And I will always have a passion for working with youth, and I will always continue doing something with that. But I want to do more.
But not
so.
teaching. Yeah.
I don't have a problem being a role of a teacher. I don't want to be right now in a public school setting or even private school. I don't want to be in a school setting.
Yeah.
I want to teach, just not in a school setting right now.
Well, I know it's a lot of work too. So if you're dealing with some other things in your life, like an art practice or health issues or something like that, it can be a good idea to step back. Definitely. Yeah. Occasionally, my mother would do that. She would take some time off from teaching.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I won't ever teach again.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take my experiences and.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're constantly doing that. You're taking a particular skill set which you have. Some of it is a gift, I would say, like you mentioned earlier. I would say that is true, to connect with people in a way that's appropriate and brings out what's good in them, and you keep taking that skill set and applying it in different ways. So I just really like that. I really like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's really like heartening, actually, that you're able to do that. Yeah. That's cool that you're kind of giving yourself some time too, because art practice, I know, can be really like nourishing, personally nourishing.
Yeah. I'm also delving a little bit more into like, I've always had religion, but I'm delving more into spirituality and kind of like still being religious, but splitting. I'm not saying that too loud here, but splitting a little bit and just like figuring out my spirituality. So,
Yeah.
which I'm using art as a way to do.
So, how would you distinguish that?
So
Religion and spirituality, in your sense.
for me, okay, growing up in a so like this church is Christian, but it's not as like strict as what I grew up in, which I feel like kind of held me back in a lot of ways.
And what was that?
So I went through some different denominations, but I was in the Southern Baptist
Okay.
denomination for a while, and I loved it. It was fun as heck. But I was rejected in every sense and tried to fix and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. The churches that I find the most fun and just like crying
Hate
out.
me as a person.
Yeah, crying out and singing and praising the Lord and all that, bodily worship. Yeah, like you're saying, they do not like people like us, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Which is terrible.
Because it's so funny because I feel like it draws you in and it just wants to be a part of it. And then it's like, but not you, or you, or you, unless you come here and, get fixed.
Right.
But yeah, so I took that and I've always had that upbringing and I will always have my love of God and whatnot. I like that in this church they also make you question parts of the Bible. And I like that.
Yeah.
But I also want to take a step back from the Bible a little bit. And I feel like it's trying to determine for me like what is still religion versus spirituality versus like where it blends, where it's together, and what else that might mean. And I also, I don't know, I'm not a like blender of things, but I guess kind of blend, like
eclectic,
like take parts, from like the religion that I know, and like that doesn't change. But also accept in the nature and the like the earth and spirit, like use like that part of spiritual and not just, oh, God created earth, so it's like it's not my property. It's like, what can I learn from earth and nature and knowing that, okay, just as much as my spiritual health that I get from going to church, going and hiking in the woods is just as needed for my soul, for my spiritual health.
And
so,
and having kind of equal respect for that as well. Yeah.
And what I find is interesting is that the last time we talked, I told you how like we use Zen time in school and how it's not necessarily a religion
let's get to
thing,
that because I don't know what that, I don't remember that.
So it's a way, I know it's, some people see it as, or it is sometimes, I know it's a part of a religion. When we used it, we weren't using it in a form of religion, we were using it as a way to be present. So like Zen time in my classroom was you come in from lunch and recess, you're elevated, you're all over the place, you're loud. It's really hard to make the transition from lunch and recess to studying work time, being productive time. So I would always have you have a little transition to like, get your boots off and stuff like that. And then it would be 10 minutes. And pretty much from that point on, it would be lights off unless it was like storming outside. It's low, energy, calming. So we'd put calming music on. Sometimes like if in the winter, I'd have like the fireplace projecting on the board, have music playing. And it was no, other than my fireplace, no electronics. So they could read, write. I know. So they can read, write, color, draw, any of those things. They could not use tablet, computer, anything. It was not a talking time. It was an individual. It could be a reflection time. I often gave them reflections, but I also gave them time to just do, like, it was like me time, what we called the Zen time. And so is them using that time to regulate themselves so that they're then ready, so that once we move on from that, we're ready to learn, and it's not taking half an afternoon away from us. It is a set routine of a transition, and so we had to discuss being present and doing what we need at the time. And so.
And it's so humane too, because I mean, I can see how that would be great for adults, but especially for kids who, they get wound up and they're playing and they're screaming and they're yelling and, having a good time, as kids should be, as healthy kids should be, right?
And then come in with your blood still boiling and you still have that in your mind.
Got to sit at the desk and like listen and, there has to be some middle ground there. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I think adults should do that too.
I do. I do. Yep.
Yeah. Wow, cool. I think that's probably a good place to end there. I forgot that we had talked about that, actually. I actually have stayed at Zen monasteries, and, you could take it in a religious sense, but there's tools from it, like meditation and mindfulness training and, that sort of thing that can be applied elsewhere. It doesn't have to necessarily be religious.
And I feel like everyone, age doesn't matter, would benefit from learning how to be present.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Or what they need to be successful and present.
Also, I mean, just think of it too, like just being present. Like if we're thinking constantly about the past, if we're ruminating over that, then we're not right here. We're not enjoying our life as it is right here. And if we're always thinking about the future, making plans, we're also not right here, right? I mean, it's good to think about both things, but not always be there. And, if we're out here too much, it doesn't mean, it means we're not living right here. So, I mean, that might sound kind of trite, but, I think about that a lot, actually, because there's some things I ruminate over for years. And I'm like, it's captured me. It has me caught.
And even just simple things, though, like when they say, like, try to be mindful, like, of doing the dishes, and you're like...
Well, it's kind of a buzzword now, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I mean, even if you take it for that, though, and people are like, well, I don't want to be mindful for doing the dishes. If I'm thinking about something fun while I'm doing the dishes, it's like, okay, but, like, so don't focus on the dishes, but, like, find, like, okay... think about the water or whatever, like as a way to like focus in and actually be here, because our minds are so used to going now that like people don't know how to be bored. They don't know how to just be.
Well, I think that's the danger with always being on a device, is because your mind is elsewhere. It's always elsewhere, and if you don't have that in your hand, I find that some people, even myself, sometimes I feel anxious. I'm like, why am I not checking Twitter or Facebook?
Because it is wiring your brain to keep going. And so my favorite thing is when someone says, and they don't always like this, but they say, I'm bored. And I say, yes, wonderful, good. I'll go find something to,
that's right,
to be.
Right, because boredom can actually propel you to do something creative, right? Because you want to get out of that boredom. But then if we always just grab a device, it's almost like...
You're never giving yourself an opportunity to create something new.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's distraction from doing that. It's just distraction. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's weird though. I feel so old saying that, but it's partly my time of life too, because I'm in my 50s. So I'm kind of feel like, oh, I'm getting old. So whatever I've gained in my life, I have to just kind of deal with that. But, sometimes younger people will make fun of me. Part of the reason too is because I don't understand internet jokes.
I don't get half of anything, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't. So finally, online, I mean, we were just talking about not being online, but at some point I said, maybe this is ironic, I said, I'm glad I'm not on here enough to understand the jokes.
Nice.
So that's my little contrarian statement. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for doing this again. Our initial interview was ruined by the insects, which I'm glad that New Hampshire is healthy enough to have this booming insect population. That means the water and the trees and all that are very healthy, good biome, but it messes up with the audio. So, yeah. We can tune it out, right? Humans tune out a lot of things, but the mic does not. Anyway, yeah, so thank you so much. This might sound kind of cheesy, but I actually find you very inspiring.
Thank you.
Like I was saying, with that skill set that you're bringing to different projects, and you're even, taking some time out and working on yourself. I think that's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for, doing this again, and thank you to the church for allowing us to be here, even though it was a rough beginning. Earlier today, we encountered a little bit of friction with somebody.
Not the church people.
Not the church, but somebody
lovely.
else. Somebody else. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much. And I hope, just my little hope here, I hope you're able to find a sweet friend at some point.
Thanks.
Yeah. Get out there. Or maybe somebody who sees this video. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, because you deserve it. I mean, you're such a sweet fellow. You're handsome, you're accomplished, and you want to do all these things. So, I hope that you have some luck in that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. I'm headed back to New Hampshire, and actually, I'm in New Hampshire at the moment. I'm headed back to New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania for a little bit. I had to skip over those because I need some health care, so I came back to Boston because I am part of a clinic here. I've been to a clinic here, so I thought that would be easier. So I'm headed back a little bit. I'm doing a little backtracking, and so I'm going to be doing my next interviews there. So, all right. Until next time. See you later. Bye.